Hey everybody, welcome back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Today's video is a special one because it's actually my 450th video here on YouTube. And it's crazy to me that this one is 450 because this movie I'm going to be talking about today is probably my favorite Western of all time, probably in my top 10 favorite films, period. I've always loved this film from the first time I saw it to today. And this new release from Arrow Video has only reinvigorated my love for this film. And that is, of course, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the all-new 4K remaster. This is the collector's edition box set here from Arrow Video. And this is just an absolute knockout of a box set here. I'm actually going to kind of take it apart. So there's a slip cover that comes off, and then on the inside you have the actual case here with new artwork, and it's reversible to the original poster art as well. There is the new poster that has a flip side of the original poster, and then there's a perfect bound book inside as well that has a bunch of different articles and information about the transfer inside. And this is actually a 4-disc set here. So just to open it up and show you, the first disc is the international cut of the film in 4K. Then the secondary disc is the extended cut on a separate 4K there. That is really nice. And then there's a third disc that is a Blu-ray that is just the special features. And then only in this version of this set, you get Sad Hill Unearthed. That is a documentary about fans that went to the site in Spain where they shot the finale of the movie, the big showdown at the end of the film. And they actually went, found it, and did their best to try to restore it back to what it originally looked like from the movie. So that is really interesting there. If you're new here, I review 4K Ultra HD Blu-rays. That's my thing here. I also review Blu-rays, standard Blu-rays, I should say. Pretty much a lot of physical media of films and TV shows and things like that. We're going to be doing the usual, talking about picture quality, audio quality, special features, all that stuff. But I'm also going to be talking about how this release compares to previous releases that I've seen of this film. Settle in, get your popcorn, and here we go. Now, before we go too far into the review here, I do want to give a big shout out and big thank you to Viper Video. They're a video store in Tampa, Florida, and they are the best place to get physical media in terms of movies, TV shows, whatever you're really looking for. They have pretty much everything. I was able to get this thanks to them. I pre-ordered this through them many months ago, and I will tell you, I'm very glad that I did because this is pretty much gone now, and it stinks because I love reviewing these releases, but this was a very limited release in an extremely high demand. It stinks that you may not be able to get this, but at least if you get the standard edition, you'll be able to get what I'm talking about here in this review. Big thank you to Viper Video for being able to secure one of these for me, because if they hadn't, I probably wouldn't be doing this review. Now, to jump right in here, the big thing with this new release from Arrow was the fact that they did another all-new 4K restoration on this film. And they were able to get the original 2-perforation Technoscope negatives to do this, just like they did with the previous 2 films in the Man with No Name, Dollars trilogy, whatever you want to call it. And I will say, just like the previous 2 releases, this movie now has a much more natural picture quality than any of the previous releases. And I actually have them here. So these are the releases that I've gotten through Kino Lorber. So this is their 4K, and I'm pretty sure I reviewed this on the channel. That's how you know you got a problem, when you don't even remember what you've reviewed. And this was the Blu-ray version of it, and I purposefully have that cover on this one and this cover on that one to tell the difference. I kept both of these because the 4K only had the theatrical edition in 4K, And this has the theatrical and extended edition on here on the Blu-ray. Color is the big thing. This new release does have Dolby Vision on it. And Arrow has done a wonderful job really making these movies look extremely natural. And what do I mean by that? Well, previous releases of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly have mainly suffered from an issue of them being way too yellow. And when I mean way too yellow, if you haven't seen this release here, then that restoration, for some reason, they decided to up the yellow to a kind of an insane degree where it's almost like you're watching the movie through a bottle of like mustard. It's really bad. And I was never fond of that choice. I don't know why they made that choice to colorize everything with this extraordinarily yellow hue to it. Even though this 4K did not have any kind of HDR on it, it's just the 4K picture. It's a 4K, native 4K transfer on this. It just was still that very yellow color. And even skin tones and stuff in this version were very, very overblown. They were saturated and unnatural, and everybody kind of looked either like they were bright red, dark brown, or somewhere in between there. It was never a natural tone that anybody had. And there's a lot of close-ups of faces and stuff in this film. The new Arrow 4K really does away with that completely. And there's very little remaining of that yellow kind of color palette that really just took over the previous releases of this film. Skin tones are much more lifelike now. They still have a vivid quality to them, but they look like people you may just see now, especially if you happen to be in an area like these characters are, where you're in a desert or you're constantly outside all the time. You're going to have a tan, and Eli Wallach in this movie, his tan is on full display in this. It's pretty intense, but it does not look overblown like it once did. Now, when I watched this, I actually watched the extended version first because I really like that one. And that actually has an option to watch it with a kind of lost sequence that happens in that. And it's a few minutes longer than the standard extended edition. And the quality of that scene is not as good as the rest of the film, but it's kind of branched in there seamlessly. And I will say that no matter what version of this movie you watch, the quality of the film has really been improved. With that one exception, they even kind of talk about that. You can actually see some damage in that one little extended section. But the black levels throughout the film are much more improved now. There's a scene where Lee Van Cleef confronts a woman in this hotel saloon kind of place, and it's only lit by like an oil lamp, and it just looked absolutely phenomenal now compared to previous releases. There's so much better shadow detail, and the blacks are just really pure and inky in this version, and I'm really, really happy about that. The daylight scenes, which, you know, really is mainly this movie. I mean, there's not many nighttime sequences in this film, but the daylight sequences are now super, super bright. And Dolby Vision has really brought out a lot of the colors now, especially since that yellow is kind of gone. The blue skies, greenery that can be seen, the browns of the deserts, the various costumes that the characters wear. You know, you see like soldiers' uniforms, because this does take place during the Civil War. So you see the grays and the blues of the different soldiers. Everything just kind of jumps out at you now, whereas before, certain things may have been kind of messed up by that yellowish tinge. Now you're really experiencing this movie in a much better way, in my opinion. And I really like that. I'm really glad they were able to really reinvigorate the colors of this film the way they did. It was very, very impressive. and I really enjoyed it. Now, film grain is pretty much a light to medium grain all throughout. Now, it does get kind of heavier in certain shots where optical effects were used. There's a few optical zooms when the credits come up in the movie. You can really see that grain really flare up. But that medium layer of grain really adds a lot of texture and that grit that this movie really needs. The depth and everything of the movie just looks really spectacular now. So again, great job with that. I'm really glad that Arrow didn't use a ton of DNR on this one. The grain in the previous two releases was also kept intact, so I'm glad to see that they kept that up with this release as well. Now, as for that kind of extended sequence that's on the extended cut version of the film, it's really cool that they were able to put that in there, but to me personally, I can see why it was cut out, honestly. It's more of a curiosity than anything else, but it's a really neat thing that hasn't been on any of the previous releases of this, and just kind of adds to the value of this set. I thought that was, kind of a nice little addition there. Now, as for the audio for this movie, there's actually two different audio tracks on each version of the film. There is a newly restored 1.0 mono track, and then there's also a newly restored 5.1 DTS HD surround sound track. Now, when I first watched the movie on the extended edition, the one that has that extended sequence put back into it, you can only watch that version in the mono. So I watched it with the original theatrical mono, and I have to say that I was really impressed with that mono audio track. If you're watching it with a surround sound system like I am, everything's just going to come out of that center channel speaker, but boy, is it a unbelievably great mono audio track. It's very well layered. I really loved how the dialogue and the sound effects sounded on that one. It was really, really nice. Now, when I watched the theatrical version, I actually watched that one in the 5.1. And the 5.1, again, sounds fantastic. But the biggest advantage I found with the 5.1 is that it spreads out Ennio Morricone's legendary score a little bit better in that one. Instead of it being contained, it can really fill the room. Now, other sound effects and stuff in the rear are not really used that much. A lot of it takes place in the left, right, and center channel speakers. Gunfire, the music, dialogue, everything's kind of up front. But in the battle sequences that happen in the film, you do get a little bit back there, but it's really not a whole heck of a lot. So, it's going to be personal preference. For me, honestly, I kind of like the mono track on this one. And I wasn't big on the mono track on the previous two, but for this, I actually really liked it. It had great leveling. I just loved how, full it sounded, and it was just a beautiful experience to watch this in mono, in a true mono as well. And I think all the purists out there are really going to appreciate the mono on this. It's a home run. Now, as for the special features on this, as I mentioned, they do come on that third disc in the set, and there are a whole ton of them. Now, with this release, because this is a European release, UK, wherever around that neck of the woods, you do have to have a Region B Blu-ray player in order to play it. On my Panasonic UB9000, I was able to kind of trick it to get to those special features. And the way you do that is you have to punch in the chapter numbers and then play them in order to get to them, because if not, the menu just shows a blank menu and that's all you get. So a little trick if you want to do that, you have to actually type in the chapter numbers and go through that way. If you start numerically from I think 1 or 2 to 14, it kind of goes up that way. So you have to kind of go through and watch them that way, which is kind of a pain in the neck if you have a Blu-ray player or a 4K player that will actually play these. If you have a region-free Blu-ray player, it's not going to be an issue. There are a ton of new interviews done on this new special features disc here. A lot of them are family members of people who worked on this film. For instance, there is an interview with the son of the writer of the film. There is an interview with the son of the cinematographer, the assistant cameraman. They actually interviewed the guy who actually was the assistant cameraman on this. The daughter of the costume designer is interviewed here. There is also an interview with Lee Van Cleef biographer Mike Malloy. They interview stuntman Fabio Testi, editor Eugenio Albiso. Again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing some of these names. Post-production supervisor Enzo Ocone, guitarist Bruno Mattiste de Amario, singer Etta Dell'Orzo, Morricone biographer Alessandro De Rosa. There's a new visual essay by musician and disc collector Lovely John exploring the film's score, much like a previous special feature in one of the other releases in this series. And then there's all of the archival featurettes and documentaries that came with previous releases, like the Kino Lorber one. On top of that, there is that extra fourth disc that has the documentary Sad Hill Unearthed. And even that disc on its own has a bunch of special features about the making of and behind the scenes and deleted stuff from that documentary. So it's pretty incredible the amount of stuff that you get on this. And it was really cool to see all these people, you know, related to, or some of them actually did work on the film. And from a movie from 1966 to be talking about it still to this day really goes to show you what an impact that this movie has had on film and culture and everything else. It's really legendary. My opinion on this release is that this is just stupendous. I can't speak any higher of this release. I absolutely loved and adored it, just like I did the previous two releases. Now, I will say, this Kino Lorber release, the detail level on this was phenomenal, but now that the colors and everything has been restored, and in my opinion, the audio is even better on the Arrow Video release, I really can't recommend this any more than I am now. It's fantastic. If you are a lover of film or just Westerns in general and you have not seen it, this is now the new definitive way to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I absolutely loved it. Normally, I'd give you a link to this in my description. It goes to Amazon or anything like that, but this edition is pretty much gone. Normally, I would leave a link in the description where you could pick this up, but this is pretty much gone at this point. So if you are interested in getting this, be on the lookout for like a standard edition release that it's going to come out. Whatever you do, please don't pay like $150, $200 for this on eBay. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Don't let the scalpers win. That is just an unbelievably horrible thing. That's probably one of the reasons why that this sold out so quickly, is because scalpers got a hold of it, and it's a real shame, and I hate that. It'll be a lot more accessible in a few weeks when that standard edition comes out, so just hang in there. But that's all for today for Kavanaugh's Corner. I just want to say thank you all so very much for coming back to the channel here. I really love making these videos, and I really hope that I can inform people on physical media and things like that. And if you enjoyed this, definitely make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel down below so I can keep bringing you more videos like this. Until next time, I wish you guys all the very best. Please stay safe, keep collecting, and take it easy.